Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're diving into something that looks like it's been on your mind.
Yeah.
A lot of questions about coding.
Mm-hmm.
We've got articles, blog posts, personal notes, all about coding.
Right.
Lots of questions swirling around about whether coding is worth it,
Yeah.
especially because you're finding it pretty tough.
Yeah, I can see why.
And even, we've got an article here about the challenges of coding boot camps.
Yeah. Those can be really intense.
So it seems like you're really trying to figure out
Yeah,
if this whole coding thing is something you should stick with.
absolutely. And it's a question we get a lot these days.
Yeah,
With technology becoming more and more important,
right.
it's natural to feel like you need to know how to code to succeed. But the reality is that learning curve can be really steep.
Yeah, and it feels like the moment you master one thing,
Exactly.
you know a new framework pops up and you're back to square one.
Yeah. And then there's the whole abstract thinking part of it.
Right, like it's not just learning a new language.
It's true.
It's like learning a new language that keeps changing the rules on you.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah,
And you-
constantly evolving.
Exactly. And so we see from your notes, you've been hitting some roadblocks,
Mm-hmm.
feeling a bit stuck, a little discouraged even.
Makes sense. It's not always easy.
So how do you know if you're just experiencing normal coding struggles?
Right.
Or if it's a sign that maybe you need to take a different approach?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, and your sources actually point to this really interesting concept called the illusion of explanatory depth.
Oh, that's a good one.
So what is that all about?
Well, it's this idea that sometimes we think we understand something way better than we actually do.
Oh, I can relate to that.
You read a simple explanation and you think, oh, yeah, I totally get that. But
Right.
when you actually try to apply it, you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is a lot more complicated than I thought.
It's like those furniture assembly instructions. They look so simple with the pictures and everything, but
So
then...
then you're left with like 3 extra screws and a wobbly table.
Exactly. And I feel like coding is kind of like that sometimes.
It definitely can be, especially when you're first starting out.
Like one missing semicolon,
Or a misplaced bracket.
that could just bring your whole program crashing down.
It's like those tiny details have a huge impact.
Right. And so I can see why that would lead to some frustration.
It's totally understandable. But here's the thing, though.
Good.
That frustration, it's actually a normal part of the learning process.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, some would even say it's crucial for deep learning.
So you're telling me that struggling with coding is actually a good thing?
Well, in a way, yeah. When we hit those roadblocks, our brains have to engage more deeply with the material.
So it's like working out a muscle. The more you challenge it.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
You're pushing your brain to problem solve, to experiment.
Okay.
And that makes the learning stick.
So it's like the difference between reading about something and actually experiencing it firsthand.
Exactly. You'll learn more from actually getting lost in a new city
Right.
than just reading a travel guide.
Even though getting lost can be super frustrating in the moment.
It's true, but it also makes for a better story later on.
That's true. And speaking of stories,
Yeah.
aren't those aha moments we hear so much about in coding?
Oh, absolutely.
Like kind of the reward for all that struggle?
They're like those little bursts of joy that keep you going.
The feeling when everything finally clicks into place.
And it's not just about understanding a single concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's about seeing how all the pieces fit together.
Like solving a puzzle.
Exactly. Or like that moment in a mystery novel
Oh, yeah.
when the detective suddenly figures out who the killer is.
And those moments, they're not always easy to come by, right?
No, they're not. And sometimes you might find yourself staring at those lines of code thinking, what am I even doing?
Yeah, and that's when you start to wonder,
Right.
is this even worth it?
Is coding really for me?
And that's what we're going to dig into next.
We'll explore those signs that maybe it's time to reconsider your coding journey.
Okay, so stay tuned for that.
So we've talked about how struggling with coding is totally normal.
Yeah, especially in the beginning.
But you also send us some sources
Right.
that suggest maybe coding isn't for everybody.
And that's totally fine. I mean, not everyone needs to be a coder.
Right.
It's important to be honest with yourself
Yeah.
about, what you enjoy, what you're good at.
Right.
If you force yourself to do something that just doesn't click, it's not going to end well.
No, it's a recipe for burnout, for sure.
Exactly.
And one article you sent talked about the importance of motivation when it comes to coding.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, it's really important to understand
Mm-hmm.
why you want to learn to code in the first place.
Okay.
Are you genuinely passionate about problem solving.
Yeah. Or are you just chasing after those big salaries?
Yeah, because, I mean, let's be real, those six-figure salaries
Oh, yeah.
can be pretty tempting.
For sure.
But, like, is that enough to keep you going when you're,
Right, because coding can be tough.
Exactly.
And if you're only motivated by the money, you're gonna hit a wall at some point.
It's like running a marathon, right? You need more than just that finish line to keep you going.
You gotta love the process.
Exactly.
The challenge itself.
And your sources also mentioned that sometimes the struggle with coding could actually be a sign that you haven't found the right niche.
Oh, that's a good point.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, coding is such a broad field.
Right.
There are so many different languages, frameworks, specializations. Maybe you're trying to force yourself to fit into a box that just isn't right for you.
Like maybe you're wrestling with Python?
Right.
When really you should be diving into JavaScript or something.
Exactly. Or maybe you're trying to do web development when your heart is really in data science.
Okay, so it's really about finding the right tool for the job, the right tool for your brain.
Exactly.
So before you completely give up on coding, maybe it's worth exploring some different areas.
Definitely step outside that comfort zone a little bit.
See if a different approach sparks something.
Exactly. You never know what might click.
But what about those people who've tried different approaches?
Yeah.
They've experimented.
They've put in the work.
And they're still just not feeling it.
Right.
What then?
Well, then it might be time to broaden the perspective a little bit.
Okay.
Step back and think, what does a tech career really mean?
Yeah, because coding is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
It's a big piece, but it's not the whole picture.
So what are some other options for people who maybe aren't feeling the coding thing but still want to work in tech?
Well, one area that comes to mind is UX design.
Okay, yeah. UX design, that's all of it.
Right. Making websites and apps. User-friendly, enjoyable to use.
So it's less about the technical side of things.
Exactly. It's more about understanding people.
How they think, how they behave.
And making sure that technology actually serves their needs.
Interesting. And you also sent a source about project management.
Oh, yeah. Project management is crucial in tech.
So what does a project manager do exactly?
Well, they're kind of like the conductors of an orchestra.
Okay.
They keep everyone on track, make sure things are moving smoothly.
And they don't necessarily need to know how to code?
Not really. They need to understand the process.
Okay.
But they don't need to be writing the code themselves.
Got it. And then there's also data analysis.
Oh, data analysis is huge right now.
And getting bigger all the time, right?
It is. It's all about finding patterns and insights hidden in all that data.
So it's kind of like being a detective.
It is, yeah, except instead of clues, you're looking for data points.
I love that. So many options. It's exciting to know that even if coding isn't your thing, there are still so many ways to be part of the tech world.
Absolutely. And the key is to find what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and go from there.
Okay, so we've talked about the red flags.
Yep.
The signs that maybe coding isn't the right path.
Right.
We've explored some other options in the tech world, but I want to make sure we leave some time to talk about inspiration.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Because, when coding gets tough, it's really helpful to hear from people who've been there, who's struggled, but they made it through.
Absolutely.
Those stories, they kind of give you permission
to
keep going.
Yeah.
To believe that you can do it too.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the self-doubt.
Totally.
Especially when you're learning something new and challenging like coding.
And one story that really stood out to me from the sources you sent was about Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. Yeah.
Who's now a senior developer at a tech startup. I mean, her story's incredible.
It is.
She almost quit coding altogether.
Really?
Yeah, she was struggling for months. Feeling like she was hitting a wall.
I see. It happens to the best of us.
But then she had this breakthrough moment.
What happened?
She decided to focus on a project.
Okay.
That she was really passionate about.
So she found something that she really cared about.
Exactly. And it's like that one thing just ignited her coding fire.
I love that.
It made all those hours of struggle worth it.
See, that's the power of intrinsic motivation.
Right.
When you're working on something you truly enjoy, the challenges don't seem so daunting anymore.
It's like, the difference between forcing yourself to go to the gym versus finding a sport that you actually love.
Exactly. And Sarah's story also reminded me of one of the sources you sent.
Yeah.
About platforms like Algo Academy.
Oh, yeah. Algo Academy. What's that all about?
Well, it's a platform for learning to code. And it's great for beginners especially because it offers a structured learning path.
Oh, that's helpful because I feel like one of the biggest challenges with coding is just knowing where to start.
It's overwhelming.
It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes.
Exactly. And Algo Academy kind of breaks it down into manageable steps so you don't feel so lost.
And they also have interactive coding exercises, right?
They do, yeah.
Which is great because it lets you actually apply what you're learning.
It's not just theory, it's hands-on.
Exactly, and that's how you really learn.
Absolutely.
Oh, and what about that AI-powered assistance feature?
Oh, yeah, that's a game changer.
So it's like having a coding buddy.
Kind of, yeah.
To help you when you get stuck.
Exactly. It gives you hints and explanations when you're debugging, but it doesn't just give you the answers.
Oh, so you still have to figure things out on your own.
Right, which is important for learning.
Yeah, and they have a strong community aspect too, right?
They do, yeah.
Like forums and stuff.
Yeah, where learners can connect, ask questions, share their experiences.
Because it's so much easier to stay motivated
Absolutely.
when you know you're not alone.
When you have that support system.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, we really want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked about the challenges, the rewards,
right,
the alternative paths, the inspiring stories.
All of it.
But ultimately,
the
decision of whether or not to pursue coding is a personal one.
It is.
So we've got two thoughts for you to consider.
Okay.
Depending on where you're at right now.
Okay, I like this.
If you're feeling energized about coding, if you're ready to push through those challenges, we want you to ask yourself, what's one small coding project that you'd actually enjoy working on?
That's a great question.
Something that sparks your interest? Something that makes you excited to code?
Yeah, because when you're passionate about it, you're more likely to stick with it.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe that one small project will turn into something bigger.
You never know.
Now, if you're leaning towards exploring other paths, if coding isn't feeling like the right fit, we want you to ask yourself a different question.
Okay.
What other skills or interests do you have that you could apply to a tech career?
Yeah.
Even if it's not directly coding.
Because there are so many options out there.
So many ways to contribute.
And the tech world is always changing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So embrace your curiosity, explore those options.
Don't be afraid to try new things.
And remember, your journey in tech is yours to define.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.